So, my name is Brett Giesen. I'm co-founder of CyberOps Network. We're basically a CREST certified penetration testing company. And today I really wanted to kind of just walk through three topics that keep coming up in conversations. There's a huge one at the latest conference I was at in Cebu. And for each one, what I wanted to do was just break down the problem, where the market is right now, and point to a kind of a company that I find is already moving to answer it. And that's the strategy for today's presentation here. So let's go to the first one here. IoT devices. So there's kind of like a structural problem with IoT security today. So most connected devices, so factory sensors, medical equipment, routers, run embedded operating systems. But you can't install antiviruses on them. You can't patch them the way you could patch a laptop, obviously, and they don't get retired. So that means these babies run from 10 to 15, sometimes 20 years or so. And so when there's a vulnerability found, the device stays pretty much vulnerable forever. Look at these numbers here. There's a lot of connected devices, and a lot of devices are being attacked each day. It seems like a crazy number, but there's also a crazy amount of connected devices globally here. And this number is 60%, is really interesting for founders. Basically, the majority of IoT breaches track back to firmware that was never patched and simply just cannot be. So yeah, this is a hardware problem. And that's kind of why the opportunity is found in the network layer around the device, not in the device itself. And that's kind of the gap that I wanted to talk about here. So everyone maybe knows about the Cyber Resilience Act, or CRA. So this is the EU's new regulation that for the first time puts a mandatory security requirement on any product with digital elements sold in Europe. And that basically means hardware, software, apps, connected devices, you name it. So if it connects and has a code, it's in scope. It's great for companies like mine that deal with this because regulation is really compelling companies to act. And with that, they need tests. And, that's what we do. But September 11th, so in 5 months or so, that's when the Cyber Resilience Act reporting obligations begin. Also for manufacturing, shipping, connected products, for example, you have to report activities. You have to report actively exploited vulnerabilities within 24 hours, or you could face up fines of 15 million, something pretty crazy high up there. Look at these numbers. 87% of CEOs are already naming AI-driven IoT attacks as their fastest growing risk. Maybe you are all aware of the Majesu botnet target targeting home routers that just happened, a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, IoT devices and the ability to secure them is a real issue that not a lot of people have answers to yet. So what I did find is Nozomi Networks. So what they've done is they built their product around sort of the idea that you can't properly secure a device, then you should build a security layer around it pretty much. And that kind of means that everything runs at the network level. So, if you can't install anything on the device itself, that's also not the problem anymore. So the platform sort of auto discovers every connected asset. It learns normal behavior, what that looks like, and then sort of fires out an alert the moment something deviates from that normal behavior. So the insight kind of is the execution. Yeah, the insight is pretty much that, trying to understand the normal behavior in the network layer, and then using that as a way to identify deviations. The execution obviously took years for this. for them to learn all these things, but the gap between this insight and the built product is where kind of the founders live on this. So how does the Nozomi actually make money? What I found is they have per network a segment, so they have a SaaS subscription. It kind of, you know, I think it works pretty well. I would do more research on it, but could a small company build something like this? Yeah, the core technology is accessible for sure. Um, yeah, it's kind of knowing what normal behavior looks like, and then it takes time to build, but um, it's an interesting sort of solution, but there's a lot more that needs to be developed in this space for IoT. Regulation. So we have three frameworks. These for my industry, for cybersecurity industry particularly, we have the NIS2, the DORA, and what I just mentioned, the Cyber Resilience Act. So all kind of are happening all at once. NIS2 covers 18 sectors and already had 20 deadline October 2026. So that's already in place. DORA for the financial services is also already in force. And the Cyber Resilience Act, which I just mentioned, hits all connected product manufacturers this September. So the problem isn't necessarily the regulation itself, it's just that there needs to be more sort of tools to help companies deal with all of the standards, all the requirements, regulatory, that are necessary for this type of compliance. So most of uh, basically the companies were have a voluntary standard using this thing called the ISO 27001. But there's no sort of personal way for them to take this and apply it to NIS 2, for example. So there's never designed for the hard deadlines where also the management is held personally responsible now. So a lot of people in the SMEs themselves also still don't know if they are NIS 2 compliant or not anyway. And all of that comes together by me thinking that maybe awareness is itself the gap that's in the market. So what that means is we have the energy, transport, banking, financial, health, I mean, digital infrastructure, all of these things are within the scope for NIS 2. And that means that also the first fines were issued this quarter of this year. So, I mean, I guess GDPR hit 2.1 billion in fines, uh, which is a lot. Germany specifically. The BSI portal just went live in January, if I recall. And that relates exactly to what we do. So the NIS 2 Article 21, so a part of that is mandating penetration testing as an ongoing compliance requirement. And it's kind of a legal obligation. So if you find yourself within scope, you need to have a mandated penetration test, at least once a year. So that's kind of like a baked in revenue stream for anyone building in this space. But with that, you also have to have kind of a, a helpful way for everyone to gather all of their documents that they need to basically put in all of the information that they need to know whether they're in scope, what they need to submit, and just kind of update it a little bit more than just a simple ISO 27001 standard baseline. And what I found is Hopla is doing a pretty good job of hitting that gap. So Copla figured out something is that the buyer for these compliance toolings are not necessarily CISOs, but more like an IT manager at, let's say, 150, 200 person manufacturing company who got a letter from their lawyer and they're like, hey, it looks like you needs to compliant by October, and they don't have an idea where to start. So, Coppola automated the evidence generation, which also requires continuous pen tests, an audit-ready evidence space, incident response playbooks, and they even have a CISO as a service layer for board sign-offs. Uh, Basically, it kind of made much quicker the compliance workload for people who just realize that they need to be hitting compliance by a whole lot, and save them more than half a 50K 60K. So the idea is also, maybe if you don't want to sell security, then you could sell the proof of security through helpful, more automated NIS 2 compliant frameworks. Um, yeah, is Coppola competing with firms like mine, like penetration tests? And to be honestly, they actually overlap. I mean, so Coppola's automated testing doesn't replace a full manual penetration test. It handles kind of like a continuous baseline of validation, but for anything required, like in-depth human led testing is still required. In fact, I think that's probably also within the mandate. It still needs to have kind of a human element. So it's actually more of like a partnership model. So working with penetration testers and automated scanning vulnerability scans, as well as automated compliance generation for documentation could be just like a really great uh, model right there. Lastly, we have AI. So two things kind of are happening simultaneously. On one side, we have AI obviously making attacks faster and cheaper. We know that the Chinese state actors, for example, are using Claude heavily uh, to automate their intrusion, their renaissance, exploit generation in one operation now. So AI phishing now gets more than 50% click rate versus 12% for standard attempts. So there's a lot happening on this side for sure. But on the other side, every company is deploying AI agents that take autonomous actions. So from my research that I saw, only 35% of enterprises have AI specific security controls at all. And the weapon is getting more powerful at exactly this right moment when new attack surfaces are being built without very much protection. Um, so let's look at the OWASP new data here. So published a separate top 10 now for agentic applications. Uh, this is signaling kind of a categorically new problem. So what we're finding is like the number one risk is this agent goal hijacking. And that's kind of worth explaining a little bit. It's kind of interesting. So an attacker doesn't need to hack your system directly. It basically just needs to somehow inject malicious instruction into something your AI agent is going to read. So a document, an email, a support ticket. The agent reads it, treats it as a legitimate instruction, and executes it using its own access. And the reason that existing pen testing tools can't find this is that they fire a single payload and wait for a response. And AI vulnerabilities require multi-step chains that play out sort of over time. So this has been exploited in the wild. There are documented cases of indirect prompt injection. And yeah, how do you test for that? What I found was Novi. So this is an interesting company here. So Novi launched in 2026, 6 weeks ago. 51 million raised in January. So the pace tells you that the market is like moving quite quickly. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in ways to help in this area. So their platform autonomously attacks AI-powered applications the way that a human attacker would. And it's basically chaining technologies or these techniques across multiple steps. So it's testing chatbots and copilots, agent workflows, and it plugs into the CI/CD pipelines. So every model update triggers a security test automatically, and that's pretty good. The key points for founders here that might be interested is that the skills required to build this, so understanding how both LLMs work and how attackers think, are kind of rare. So that combination is in ways the limiting factor here, the moat. But it's not just relevant for companies building AI products. For now, the primary buyer is AI product companies. But I'm assuming within like 18 to 24 months, any enterprise deploying AI agents will become buyers too. So that's kind of almost anyone. And yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm seeing here. So in general, the pattern is uh, this is kind of the pattern I'm seeing, for an opportunity. So every one of these opportunities is sort of following that pattern. So there's a problem that exists where tools weren't built to solve, particularly with IoT. The regulation deadlines, new attack classes are creating urgency, and a product that runs continuously and automatically without adding headcount is kind of what people are looking at. So the companies potentially that will win here are not the ones building slightly better versions of what already existed, but they're kind of building within the gaps of things that they're seeing right now that are taking place in the market where people don't yet have a really great solution. What pen testers are finding in the field today. So what we're working with, particularly with right now, we have a few partners in the NIS2 compliance space who are running kind of more of these vulnerability scans and automated documentation, who then reach out to us for the penetration side of that, like if they want a gap analysis or whatever. Or particularly, we do have a lot of other companies that are looking for us to help them with prompt injections to test their own AI, internal AI systems. That's kind of tomorrow's roadmap. So yeah, the gaps we find manually today are the products that will be built tomorrow. Um, yeah, and that was the presentation. I guess it was a bit to the point, really quickly about us and CyberOps. So we are a CREST certified penetration testing company, and we work with technology companies and SaaS builders as well, founders who need a trusted technical partner to test and validate what they're building. And it's actually pretty good if you're starting a new company in this space to already have someone in the security area in the room with you to build smart and strong and uh, have a good let's see roadmap before you get too big, or to particularly make sure that everything is working before you go to market. It'll save you a lot of money in the long run, and if you can already become sort of close or towards compliance in the beginning, then it is sort of more of a strategic help for your company, in that if you work in any kind of other company that has itself needing to be NIS2 compliant, for example, then all third parties they work with also need to be NIS2. So maybe your company itself doesn't need to have that type of compliance, but if you wish to work with companies who do, then you will, and therefore it's a great opportunity to hit that point, with us, because we're also we work directly with small medium enterprises, and we kind of just make that our focus. So price points are usually pretty darn good, and we're a small team too, so we like to work with other small teams. That was it. So we have the LinkedIn QR if you want to reach out to me from LinkedIn. I also have another one for our website. And yeah, I'm around. I live in Berlin. I'll be here for another couple of weeks. If anyone wants to, if you're in Berlin and you want to have a coffee and talk cyber, reach out to me. And yeah, otherwise, I believe that is it on my side.
All right, thanks a lot, Brad. I think we can just directly switch to the questions. So if you have questions, I think it's best if you just, as we are not a super big group, just jump in directly, ask your questions, put on your mic, and so we don't need to read the questions and guess. It's better to communicate directly. So if you have a question, just ask direct.
Yeah, hi. I have one question. My name is Ali. So
Hi.
the question is, I mean, like the platform seems very interesting and very relevant for these times. So are you providing any encryption mechanisms as well, or you are doing pen testing for the models or the framework that companies build?
Sorry. So we basically don't do any encryption. No, we basically test all of the models through, yeah, just their external or internal, yeah, tests pretty much. We don't do the encryption for sure.
So let's say a company is fine-tuning a model, and then for a specific use case, so they have this infrastructure, let's say. So I'm just understanding from a stack perspective. So you provide a plugin, or how do you do that, or how is that handled? Like, because I mean, like when you're doing fine, I mean, like there are guardrails, decision flows, all of this stuff. So are you adding some plugin code, or what is there? If you can elaborate on that.
No, so we don't do any kind of plugins. We also don't do like a vulnerability scan. So day to day, it's manual penetration testing. So we kind of, yeah, we come in, we fine tune the data layer. We yeah, don't have a platform. So we're more of a service-oriented company. So we come in and do the actual test with like the API, mobile, things like that. Does that answer
Okay.
the question?
Got you. I mean, yeah. I mean, like from our perspective, we are building a platform for supply chains. So we are heavily using like building agents at the moment for different supply chain use cases. So we are fine tuning we are heavily working with Mistral because that sort of gives us like a neutrality here in Europe. Otherwise, we might end up into lawsuits and all this GDPR issues, which you talk about all of this. So that is scary for somebody who is unfunded like us. So that's the reason why I wanted to know, like, because you have raised a very, very important point. Here, completely relevant, everything that you said today. So
Mm.
that's the reason why I'm more interested, like, how, so you are doing a manual service as an essence. So we need to hand over our code and models as in, to be
Yeah.
clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, so what we do is we assess the security for everything around the model. We could do that. Your infrastructure, your data pipelines, the API endpoints for sure.
Yeah.
That's standard penetration tests pretty much. So
Got you.
applied to an
And
AI environment, that's what we do for sure. But we don't like, I don't know, maybe I didn't understand the question exactly, but for the yeah, the model
from my
we
side, I'm trying to understand what you are, how can I, sort of use what you're saying because you've raised, as I said, very important points. So
mm,
then, because since we are still like, TRL 6, 7 level, but we are also fine tuning these models, right? So I am, this is why I thought when I heard your presentation, I thought it's more to do with like, you have some plugin that we use as a paid service and then it does all that pen testing and then like a Dockerized way of API charges and something. But that
mm.
is not what I think now. It's something that one of your service like developers would help us out in person. Is that's how?
Yep. Well, we could help you out in terms of if you then started to make sure to test your product you're bringing out, but what you could put together for other companies, that's it's still quite relevant for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Great. And you are based, you're a German European company or an American company? Or you?
German European company. Yeah.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much, Brett. Thanks.
Yeah.
Cool.
No problem.
So next question from Elena, maybe. She raised her hand.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, very interesting presentation. I work in finance industry, so in banks where GDPR and in general controls are quite strict. And
They're yeah.
Dora, yes. And I work with models, model risk, all these guardrails and controls. And maybe my question is more like overall, how you look at the risk of these new AI tools, being Cloud Code, OpenClaw, which can act, and the risk that they don't show it explicitly, right? So like Cloud Code should ask the question, should I proceed or not? But what if they don't ask? And then what are the views? What are the recent trends? How these workarounds by those agents can be stopped, can be even monitored and guarded and like ring fenced, if you follow what I'm heading to. Like, what are the latest approaches for those kind of risks?
Yeah, that's super interesting because that's sort of exactly kind of what I said earlier. So the traditional risk models were kind of built around tools that respond, and you ask and they answer, right? So the
Mm.
agents are different because they act. So they read a document, they make a decision. So in banking specifically, this sits kind of at the intersection of model risk and operational risk. So the guardrails you build into the model itself are one layer. And that's where the indirect prompt injection sort of lives. So the answer is basically the industry still needs to kind of catch up. I don't know.
Like
Red
what would
teaming.
more specifically, I'm just curious. So you provide some access rights to Cloud Code, to OpenClaw. Do you see the risk, like to one directory, for example? Do you see the risk that somewhere, somehow, it can go to other directories, and how this should be controlled, and what are the tools? Because I'm not super familiar in like cybersecurity, and this is maybe also something very new. So what are your thoughts on this, like new evolving kind of risks when those AI agents they like independently decide what to do next, and yeah, how you can be sure that when you write the directory, it cannot write another code to itself and somehow kind of work around these restrictions.
Yeah. I guess just in general, the key would be making sure that the restriction is enforced at the system level, so not just the application level, because the application level restrictions can often be bypassed. And
Mm.
yeah, for pen testing perspective, it's one of the first things that you would test. So you verify that the access boundaries are enforced at the system level. And the system level file permissions are the hard boundary that actually holds pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And the last question, maybe, I'm curious, what are the initiatives from the government, maybe building these laws and controls? Do you follow or maybe know on the initiatives or sandboxes, maybe in Germany or other countries, like how it's what is happening there? I don't know if you follow that kind of regulation building initiatives, how they plan to build new laws on to react to AI new risks.
I know that there is some sort of guidance for sure. Let me look quickly here. I know that there's an ISO 4200 AI. I forget the exact ISO. There's 42001, I think. And that's the
Yeah.
standard for AI management systems, at least for the business level. But I know that the EU, the ENISA, is basically EU's cybersecurity agency, and it's actively publishing guidance in that area. So that could be a first step to look at for sure. But the honest
Mm-hmm.
answer is regulation is still definitely catching up to the technology. So that's itself really kind of where the opportunity is to look where the regulation is and look where the technology is and see the gap.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Very
Yeah.
good presentation. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I have one follow-up question. I mean, like, not related, but the thing is, are you, what are your thoughts on like safeguarding prompts itself? Because let's say if they become self-adaptive, the agents, how are you going to restrict that behavior? And then they automate the prompt and change it. If you have stored prompt in your platform, you understand my question?
Yeah, no, I get it. I guess it's basically the making sure that the agent can't override or be manipulated by external inputs, you know?
Yeah, that's
So
how are you dealing with that? Because then we go into the architecture of the attention, right? The whole thing, like, encoding, decoder, like the architecture of the GPT model itself. Because at what layer are you operating? Like, if you're providing this kind of service, which is doing pen testing versus providing at least help for cybersecurity. I believe that you clearly said that you don't provide any kind of encryption mechanisms, even PQC or any kind of So that means you're not providing any security layer of encryption for a prompt, right? That's how I understand the prompts, whatever like we're using, then that would not be encrypted. If, for example, the OpenClaw example is like if you have a couple of agents connected, let's say in GPT models, and you have one prompt being used by another prompt, so then another agent, let's say two agents, and then that is could be manipulated, right? So that level, is there anything that we can provide securely so that the prompt doesn't get changed?
um, things like input validation and output filtering.
Yeah.
At the application layer, you do have input validation that the developer controls. At the infrastructure layer, you have access controls, network restrictions. But the honest answer is that companies are only defending one of these layers. And
Yeah, this is difficult. I'm still in the building stage, right? To give you like a very high level example is between two IoT devices, you can use packets, let's say, if connected with Wi-Fi or any kind of protocol. Then you can do this homomorphic encryption before the payload gets received on the other side. So now let's say that these two things are happening between agents now. There is a prompt being sent to another agent as a prompt. So at that layer, that is where I think the security should be involved, because I have been mugged by Anthropic. They have tried to withdraw so many. I'm chasing them on LinkedIn. There's a bot that I talk to all the time. So it's a mess for me. As I said, I mean, I have like shark bites from the investing Berlin ecosystem plus the AI agents, let's say.
Okay.
So I mean, like, I'm just being brutally honest.
No, I
this
mean,
is where I see the problem comes, like between two models. If you transfer prompts, then that gets manipulated. I am 1000% sure this is happening right now. So
yeah.
there is a secure layer that is required here. There is some kind of work that is required here. So just your thoughts. This is more to help me, like,
It just needs to be
conceptually.
designed, at the layer from the start, not bolted on afterwards. But in general, in these specific particulars, it'd be great for maybe you and I to connect later, and I could connect you with the pen tester, one of the founders. He is way more in depth in
Are you on
particularly
LinkedIn?
AI.
Probably I like to meet. I mean, like, because if things go well,
Yeah,
I would like to connect with you. So I'm doing something very sensitive stuff. So fundamentally targeting aerospace sector and all this stuff. So defense touching upon. So been
that's good.
building this since 1.5 year in Germany, and then there's a huge interest inside the ecosystem, but they might be having such kind of forethoughts about how the security layer is being built,
No, I mean
and
that's
also
also quite interesting because we're NATO secured at the highest level, so we're able to then work with government contracts. So potentially
would be
once you've
interesting. I can add you on LinkedIn because I have hardware from actually, like, Florida. I can't even talk about. The guy also works with nuclear
yeah.
technology.
Well, and
So
also to better answer your question, to have my colleague who would be way more helpful in
yeah,
those particulars would be great. But yeah, definitely reach out to me over LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, you are there, right? I'll add you. I have a call in 3 minutes. I will add you. Okay. Well, thank you
Yeah,
so much. I'll
absolutely.
get in touch with you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Ali,
Bye.
great.
Thank
Cool.
All right, yes. Thanks a lot also from our side, Brad, that you had this session here. And maybe just a hint, just shared it in the chat. So there's another Online session, another event in the series, How to Build Cybersecurity Business Models in the Era of AI, completely fitting to that, what we were talking about. And yeah, Brett,
Perfect.
you stay around with us, with SIBB Incubator, and in general with cybersecurity and us. So as you are also a member of SIBB. And yeah, let's exchange contacts if you want to talk to Brett besides this webinar. Please connect with him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'll be here for a while. So sorry, I might not have been able to answer everyone else's questions, but it was great seeing y'all, and hope to speak to you all soon.
Great. Thank you very much, Brett.
Cool, cool. Bye-bye.
Bye.